Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I'm returning to you this mid-afternoon, getting close to late afternoon for this next album review by All Time Low. This is for Future Hearts, their sixth studio album that I got a chance to listen to for myself for this 2015 record, see what I was going to think of it. Technically, this album is 10 years old as of this year, but I will discuss what I listened to for the 63 minute record, and let you know my thoughts on the whole deluxe edition of Future Hearts because I'm including the extra tracks with it. Technically, it's a 13 track record, but I'm including the extra 5 songs to make it 18 songs. So let's dive into this album review. Now, it starts with Satellite and it kicks off the record alright. I don't know, some of the melody is kind of, it's fine, but not my favorite. But it's pretty good in its own way to introduce the record. For the 2 minutes and 24 seconds, you're in for a solid track. So I'd give this a 4.75 out of 5. Sorry, I'm hiccuping a little because I just finished eating and having a soda as well. So Kicking and Screaming is the second track on the record, and it's actually not too bad of a song. So I'd give this another 4.75 out of 5. It's pretty solid for how it sounds. It's not my personal favorite, but it is one of the highlights on the record. So starts off pretty strong in its own way. Pretty good, plays it safe. Alex Gaskar's vocals are pretty solid, and just the way the song's melody and execution is, it's fine for what it goes for, and the instrumentation's pretty solid. 4.75 out of 5. Something's Gotta Give was one of the singles for the record, and it's a strong song from what I listened to. Not bad, but some of the lyrics kind of just get a little hit or miss. And the way Alex Gaskar's singing it, it's not bad. So I'd give this a 4.75 out of 5 for Something's Gotta Give. The instrumentation's pretty solid from what I listened to. So, yeah. Kids in the Dark is the next song, and I believe it's the second single for this record. They only made like 2 singles for this record, which is a good thing, because they at least played it safe. Just releasing 2 songs for singles. So, Kids in the Dark was a pretty good track in its own way. It's not one of my personal favorites. It sounds samey. Most of their music, as of lately, for their later discography, it kind of sounds samey. Like, you hear it so much, but their melodies are pretty upbeat. I like that about All Time Low, but I think when you get to the later records, they're good, but there's just not really anything to write home about for the albums Don't Panic, It's Longer Now, and Future Hearts. I think Don't Panic was a better record, but this one is kind of a hit or miss record. So this is a 4.75 out of 5. Runaways is a pretty good song in its own way. Not my personal favorite, but it's pretty good for how it sounds. I'd give it a 4.75 out of 5 as well. Alex Gaskar's singing in it is pretty strong. And just overall, the track did perform pretty well. So 4.75 out of 5. Missing You, definitely an experimental track that I could get on board with. So I'd give this a 4.75 out of 5. Some of the lyrics are not the best, but they're not terrible. It's just the melody and how it's sounding comes off a little cheesy, but it's in a good way kind of cheesy. It makes it listenable. So 4.75 out of 5. Cinder Block Garden is a pretty good song in its own way. I do dig how this track sounds overall. The lyrics are kind of hit or miss. Nothing to write home about, but they're fine for how they sound. So 4.75 out of 5. Alex Gaskar singing in it is pretty strong, and the instrumentation's pretty good. Tidal Waves featuring Mark Hoppus. This one, I did not hear Mark Hoppus singing in it. I think he was just playing the guitar through this track, and I was a little disappointed, but I didn't hate this track. It's pretty good for how it is. Execution-wise, it's alright, but I don't know. This one kind of feels samey as the other tracks, but they're not terrible. They just play it safe, so 4.75 out of 5. Don't You Go is a pretty good song in its own way. I didn't hate how it sounded. I think some of the melody kind of hit or miss, but Alex Gaskar's vocals are solid enough to keep the listener listening to the rest of the song. And the drum work and guitar work is pretty strong, so 4.75 out of 5 to correct myself. Bail Me Out, featuring Joel Madden, is actually a pretty good song. I actually like the vibe to it. I don't necessarily think it's the best song, but it's a pretty good song in its own way. So another 4.75 out of 5. At least Joel Madden from Good Charlotte was singing in this track along with Alex Gaspar. So both their vocals were sounding solid in this track. And it was a good collab track with both All Time Low and Joel Madden from Good Charlotte coming together in this track and putting out a pretty solid track. 4.75 out of 5. Dancing with a Wolf is a pretty good song in its own way. Not my cup of tea and not my favorite, but it plays it safe and keeps the listener enjoying some of it. There's a few critiques with this track, but a little minor one. It's just some of the mixing in it is like, it's kind of iffy. So, yeah, 4.75 out of 5. The Edge of Tonight, pretty good song for how it sounds. I'd give this a 4.75 out of 5. It has a nice melody, and the drum work and guitar work in it's pretty good. So it's more of a different kind of style that they're going with this track, but it sounds interesting enough for a listen. So 4.75 out of 5. Old Scars, Future Hearts. This is the last track on the regular edition, and it is a pretty good song for how it is. Not my personal favorite, but it's solid of a closing track for the record. For the regular edition, it's a good closing track, so I'd give it a 4.75 out of 5. The chanting in it is pretty solid from what I listened to, and execution-wise, I think this track pulled it off for what it was going for. Okay, cat. I thought this cat wanted attention, but he just ran away from me. I was like, what did I do? But other than that, 4.75 out of 5. Bottle and a Beat. Pretty solid track from what I listened through. Don't necessarily hate this track for how it sounds. I just have a few critiques with some of the melody and how it's performed. Sorry, there's an Amazon driver passing by. I was just like, are they stopping at my place or something? Give me free shit. It's a joke, but still. Bottle and a Beat is a 4.75 out of 5. I think Alex Gaskar's vocals are pretty strong in this, and just execution-wise, this track played it safe. So, pretty good effort. Your Bed is the most disappointing track on the record, unfortunately. I found one of the worst songs on the record, and it's this one. The lyrics are very cheesy, corny, and it just doesn't really represent any good value to the track, and it just makes it a filler, watered, cringy kind of track that I can't get on board with. It's just the lyrics and the melody, it just doesn't sound good. And the way Alex Gaskar's singing it is kind of not so great. So 2.75 out of 5. Not the worst track. It has a good instrumentation, but the problem is the lyrics. They're very in your face with the sexualized lyrics. And I don't mind it, but the thing is you gotta make it execute very well. and this didn't execute very well. So 2.75 out of 5. How the Story Ends is a really good track. Probably one of the favorite tracks I like off this record. It's going to get a 5 out of 5, I'll tell you that. It is the last technically deluxe edition track if you don't count the acoustic songs that I will be counting. But it is strong for how it is. I like the drumming. I like the guitar work in it. It's very fast paced. Alex Gaskar's vocals make it work with this track. And it's an enjoyable song. So 5 out of 5. Something's Gotta Give, acoustic. 4.75 out of 5 for this one. It's nice. It's like the original one, but acoustic version wise, of course. So you're in for a solid track. 4.75 out of 5. And finally, we get to Cinderblock Garden acoustic, which ends off the record pretty fairly, meaning it's a good effort from what I listened to. Alex Gaskar's singing in it is pretty solid, and the acoustic guitar work is pretty nice in this. So I'm really digging these acoustic tracks they've been making. And pretty much if I were to give Cinderblock Garden acoustic a score, it's a 4.75 out of 5 for me. It's a pretty solid track. Overall, production, mixing, and execution-wise, I think All Time Low, Future Hearts, was actually an average record. It wasn't one of the best records I've listened to. It's because the mixing sounds very samey, and it doesn't try to switch up with what it goes for. A few times it does, but the problem with this record is the replay value. This doesn't have a lot of good replay value, to be honest. It's like you hear it once, you hear a few songs off it that you may like, but it's just, there's nothing that I really care to come back to for this record. It's average, but it's not the worst record. It's the second weakest record from All Time Low. I mean, the weakest so far was Dirty Work, but that wasn't the worst. I think this was a little bit kind of a slim. I wouldn't say slim. I would say it's a little bit of a disappointment in its own way, but it's not the worst thing I've heard. But it's going to get an average score. Not every track on here is very bad. It's just Your Bed is kind of the one that brought the rating down exponentially a little bit. But I'll give it a fair score of a 7.5 out of 10. Average listen, not something I'm going to be coming back to. Maybe some songs, but not very much a lot. The only good track I liked was How the Story Ends. I think Something's Gotta Give's pretty nice of a track. That'd be something I'd listen to again. And Runaways, Old Scars, Future Hearts, Bail Me Out, of course. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'd listen to. Everything else is kind of like filler. And like, okay, it's fine, but not great. So 7.5 out of 10 for All Time Low, Future Hearts. I was a little bit disappointed with this one. It's not good enough to give it an 8 out of 10. But a 7.5 out of 10 is deserving for this record. Just some of the tracks are a little filler for this record. And nothing to write home about. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this album review for All Time Low, Future Hearts. The next one's going to be Last Young Renegade. And I'll probably have that premiered tonight. But until then, you guys have a good rest of your mid-afternoon. And thanks for watching this All Time Low, Future Hearts album review this afternoon.